Hi everyone, thank you for joining March 2024 Stampin' Class by Mail. I'm Brenda Cardinal of stampintulip.stampinup.net, and I'm excited for you to make your really cute cards using the Ice Cream Swirl Bundle by Stampin' Up. I've teamed up with Gina Wieselman, a fellow Stampin' Up demonstrator and team member of mine, to offer these monthly classes by mail. Next month, it'll be my turn to design and share the cards, so be sure to watch the end of the video for a sneak peek of the cards I've designed. Also, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Have fun making your cards, and now here's Gina.
Thanks, Brenda. I'm Gina Wieselman of MySweetPaper.com, and I can't wait to show you how to stamp and assemble your cards using the Ice Cream Swirl stamp set and coordinating items by Stampin' Up. These items can be found in Stampin' Up's January to April 2024 mini catalog. If you ordered a class by mail kit from either Brenda or me, go ahead and pull out those items now. You'll also need the stamp set, ink pads, and other supply items shown here. If you need to order any supplies, make sure to use the host code in the video description so you qualify for all of our promotions. Please reach out to Brenda or me if you need any supplies or would like to learn more about hosting an event or becoming a Stampin' Up demonstrator. Let's get started. Our first card is our Make-A-Wish card. If you ordered a class by mail kit from either Brenda or me, all these parts and pieces were shipped right to your house. Go ahead and pull them out and you'll be ready to get started. If you didn't order a class by mail kit and would like more information about all of the measurements of these pieces, go ahead and follow the link in the video description to sign up for one of our email lists and access all of our exclusive content. We are going to go ahead and get started with our stamping, and we'll be using the Azure Afternoon ink pad. And we're going to be starting by stamping our Make-A-Wish greeting on this die cut piece. And this was cut using the All That dies. So I'm just going to ink up and center and stamp. Okay. Next, we will bring in the plain basic white panel, and I am going to stamp that with the Hope Your Day is Sweet greeting. And I also thought these sprinkles were so cute, or I guess they're kind of like confetti, but I'm just gonna go ahead and stamp those across the top as well. So I brought out my scratch paper here just so I don't get my work surface all dirty. And then I'm gonna go ahead and with my envelope, stamp that same thing along the side. Okay, and that is all of our stamping for this card. Next, we'll go ahead and get started with assembly. So I'll bring out my card base. This is the Azure Afternoon, and I'll use my bone folder to get a nice crisp fold on that. And then I'm going to start with my inner panel. So I'll just use my Stampin' Seal for this. And center that up. And then I'll go ahead and bring out the basic white piece that was embossed. And this has some really fun texture to it. I embossed it using one of the 3 embossing folders from the Basics 3D embossing set. So we'll actually be using another one of those embossing folders for one of our next card designs. So it's just a great set of folders. So I was pretty generous with my Stampin' Seal around the edges. I really like to do that on embossed pieces, but especially kind of heavily embossed pieces like this one. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and assemble our front panel. So I'm going to start with one of the Designer Series paper pieces. And I'll start with the one with the blue stars, and I'm going to center that one or position it so that there's equal borders on all 3 sides. And then I'll go ahead and get my other Designer Series paper and do the same thing. And there is going to be a strip that goes across the middle. So if there's a little bit of overlap, that's fine. If there's a little bit of a gap, that's also fine. Because what we'll be doing then is just taking this piece of Azure Afternoon and running that right across the middle. Okay. If there's any excess hanging over, which there probably will be, I always like to cut this type of piece a little bit long so that it lines up perfectly. Just trim that up with your paper snips. And then we'll go ahead and use our Stampin' Seal again on this one. And I'm going to center this up. Okay. Then we will get out our stamped greeting. And for this one, I'm going to use my mini Stampin' Dimensionals to pop it up a little bit. I'm usually pretty generous with the dimensionals because I would hate for it to fall flat when it's such a small thing to just add 1 or 2 extra. All right, get those release papers off. And again with this, I'm aiming for the center. Our last touch is our bow, and this was using the sheer ribbon combo pack. Once again, we'll be using another of these for one of our next card designs, but I'll just take a mini glue dot, pick that up, and put this at an angle. And you can decide, kind of where you want that to go. I'll put it right there for this one. And of course, the fact that the bow is pre-tied is one of the fan favorites of the class by mail. So bringing our stamped envelope back out, there is our first card design. Our second card is our ice cream shop design. So go ahead and pull out these parts and pieces. Now, before we get started with stamping for this card, I want to just show you quickly how I made that ice cream cup. So here is what the die looks like from the ice cream swirl dies, and it's made to be 2 ice cream cones with an embossed line in the middle to fold in half. So what I did to get this cup is I just needed this part of the cone, but to save a little bit of time with cutting, I cut my cardstock so that I would get 2 of them at the same time. So what this means for your kit is you will want to cut these apart. You can cut right along that score line and then right under these bottom 2 notches. And you could use your paper trimmer for this. If you end up with any sharp corners, whether you do it by hand or with your paper trimmer, you'll just want to round those nicely. So that's how we got our ice cream cup. Okay, let's start stamping. So we have a bunch of pieces that we are going to stamp all with our early espresso ink. So I'm going to pull out that ink pad. And as I get started with this stamping, I want to just note that these are die cuts, and we did include the negative in your kit if you have a stamp positioning tool and want to use that. I am going to try my hand on doing it without a positioning tool. And since this is a photopolymer stamp, hopefully I can be pretty successful with that. So I just always try to be extra cautious and slow. Looks pretty good. I'll do the same now with both of these strawberries. And it's funny because I'm always worse at doing this when I'm on film. I'm sure it's partially because of the pressure of being on camera, but also I'm trying to not dip my head right under the camera so I don't get quite as perfect as of an overhead view as I normally do when I'm just stamping for fun. Okay, those look pretty good. And then one last piece, we'll see how I do on this. Not too bad. The other piece that we are going to stamp is the greeting. I just love how this looks like an awning from an ice cream shop. As soon as I saw the striped pattern in the Bright and Beautiful Designer Series paper, I knew I wanted to go with that. I was really torn on which color to stamp it. So my sample here uses Early Espresso, but since our paper background is the Azure Afternoon, I'm gonna just show you what that looks like as well, and then you can decide which color you like the most. And this middle dip in the banner is the center, so I'm using that as my guide. And that is all of our stamping, unless of course you'd like to add something to the inside of your card or your envelope, in which case feel free to do that now. All right, let's get started with our assembly. So the first thing that I'm going to do is actually work with this strawberry a little bit. Of course, we want the red strawberry with the green leaves. So I am just going to trim off that portion of the green and use some liquid multi-purpose glue. Doesn't take much, just a little bit. And layer that right on top of the Poppy Parade piece. So that was a fun way to just add this color without having to pull out my blender pens or anything like that. So I'll set that aside to dry. And as that is drying, I'm also going to assemble the ice cream cup. So I'm going to just add some Stampin' Seal on this Designer Series paper. And then I just want this to go right across the cup. Now, as I do so, I kind of want to make sure that this yellow, the lemon lolly color comes in. So I'm positioning it more to the one side. And then I'll go to the back and trim. There we go. All right, now that all of our components are ready, let's assemble. So I'll take my thick basic white card base, fold that in half, give it a nice crisp fold. Next, we'll bring out this embossed piece of Azure Afternoon. Like I mentioned before, it uses another one of the Basics 3D embossing folders. So just a nice subtle crosshatch design. But before we adhere that to our card base, I'm going to go ahead and bring back my banner, or this awning. And I can't remember if I mentioned, but I cut this using the Scalloped Contours dies. So we're just going to position that right at the top. Okay. And then like usual, you can go ahead and just trim any excess. Looks great. Okay, let's add this to the card base. Just center this up. And now we can layer. So I'm going to get this ice cream cup positioned. And I'm centering this and putting it pretty close to the bottom of my card. Next, we're going to be positioning the ice cream. So I'll get my adhesive on there. And at the same time, we're also going to put this little, it looks, I guess, kind of like one of those chocolate straw things. So that's the way I'm thinking of it. But because it's going behind, I'm going to just kind of lay them out at the same time. And I preferred how it looked if the ice cream wasn't touching the awning. So if it drops down a little bit over the cup wrapper, I think that looks just fine. So we'll position that. And then our last touch is our strawberry. And once again, I'm just going to use my regular Stampin' Seal for that. And there is our second card design. Our third card is our ice cream cone fun fold. So go ahead and pull out these parts and pieces. Now, before we start stamping and assembling, I showed you this piece already on the previous card, this die, but what I didn't show you is this perfectly nesting additional die that actually embosses. And so this is just such a fun way to add some texture and dimension to that ice cream cone. And I think this is, of course, just a showstopper right there. So let's go ahead and start stamping. Very simple. We're going to be using our Berry Burst ink. And I'll bring out a piece of scratch paper for this, and then where we're going to be stamping. So I punched this using the Banner's Pick a Punch, and I want to note that you'll get 2 greetings out of this one piece, but I kept it long because it's really hard to use a punch with a piece that short. So this stamp, it actually says yum yum. Of course, we're only going to be using one of them. So I'll just, on my scratch paper, center this up, and there's enough space between the two that you won't have any problem with it running into the paper. But then that is all the stamping. While I'm here, I'm gonna just snip this off like so. And I did leave a little bit extra on this side just so that that bow has something to adhere to. So this is our card base, and we're going to go ahead and fold it in half right along that score line. And it isn't a super heavy score, so you are definitely going to want to use your bone folder for this. Then we'll just set that aside. Next, we have these 2 pieces that were both cut using the dies. This bubble bath one has adhesive sheets on the back. So this die is just so intricate with these thin lines that I thought there's no way I can do multi-purpose liquid glue and not make a massive mess. So in this way, we can get this centered up nicely. Then with this piece assembled, we'll go ahead and add it to our card base. And so for this, I'm just going to take my Stampin' Seal and go right across the top there. And that kind of gives me a sense of how much overlap to use, because I want it to be nice and secure. Now that this base is assembled, we'll go ahead and bring out our stamped greeting. So I'm just going to use a couple of mini dimensionals to pop this up. So I'll peel that release paper. And then I positioned it using this line as a guide. So I kind of just put it a little bit above that bottom line. Once again, you received a pre-tied bow. And again, this was another one of the colors from the sheer ribbon combo pack, but we'll just take a mini glue dot and position that to the side. And then our last embellishment is a couple of the Tinsel Gems from the Tinsel Gems 4 pack. So this pack, there's 4 different colors. You can see I've had some fun with most of them, but for this design, we're just using the pink. And with your kit, you received 1 large and 1 small. So we'll just go ahead and position those at the top of the ice cream cone. This card fits in a standard envelope. So bringing that out for us here, here's our final card design. Thanks for participating in this month's Stampin' Class by Mail. And here's Brenda with a few more things for you.
Thank you for showing us how to make those really cute cards, Gina. Make sure to follow the link in the video description for a special Pinterest board that Gina and I curated with even more fun ways to use this month's class supplies. Next month, it's my turn to design and share the cards with you, and we'll be using the Lighter Than Air suite found in Stampin' Up's 2024 January to April mini catalog. Be on the lookout for an email from Gina or me with more information about how to sign up for next month's class. And if you're not on one of our email lists, follow the link in the video description to sign up. And again, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. We'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on this video and let us know what your favorite card was this month. And until next month, happy stamping!